I've been muted this whole time. That's lovely. That's pretty appropriate. Welcome everybody. It's not the first time that's happened to me, and I'm pretty sure it's not the last time it will happen to me. But oh well, it happens. All right. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious I'm going to be working on this some more tonight. I would love to finish it, but realistically, um, probably not going to happen. I'm much slower on days that I stream, and also, you know, on weekdays like this, I'm also after work, so I'm just not quite as productive as I wish I could be. Also, the like very fine details stuff, the finish stuff, I usually have to do off stream anyways, off camera entirely, in fact. Mostly just because I can't have the stuff in the way and worry about where the camera is and so on. So I would hope that everything's still wet from yesterday. Yeah, yeah. I think it's might be a little tacky. I'll find out, but I'm not going to run my hands through it all right now. My palette, on the other hand, feels like it's very tacky. Well, also, I need more phthalo blue, so let's put that out now before I actually start painting. I'm 90% sure this is going to be too dark. Yep, too dark. So the reason I'm bringing in the orange into the blue is because while I want it to be blue, um, because it's what's it called? Lights reflecting off of her skin that's making it blue. I want it a little more muted, so mixing in the orange helps neutralize the color. It's one of the reasons I use black a lot too. Black is an easy, like, easy way of dulling colors. It's not the same as mixing complementary colors. It's a more like, I don't know how to describe it, dirty way of doing it, but it all just depends on the circumstances and the needs. Sometimes that's. I think the thing is it dulls the color and also severely darkens it compared to when you mix in complementary colors. It often just neutralizes it more, but it does depend on the color you're using. So that's not a universal. So when you see me reaching out of the palette area, I just have a bit of oleo gel over there that I'm using for mixing, or not mixing so much as making my paint move better. Okay, that's where my head starts popping in. All right. Yeah, it's gonna have to go a lot lighter. Swear to God, I feel like there's like an ant crawling on my foot all the time right now. I don't know what's going on. Is it? Oh, it's probably just a hair that I can't see, honestly. That's most likely, but yeah. Driving me crazy. So anyone joining me live, you're more than welcome to sign into YouTube and ask questions. Join me in the chat. Talk about art, whatever. So this painting is based off of a photo reference I took with some friends of mine. They modeled for me, which was very sweet of them. So I think she has a very unique look to her. She's very pretty, but it's not just that she's pretty. The hair, the attitude, all of it, just I really appreciate it. I think it made for some really great reference photos. And getting good reference photos is so hard. Even out of a photo shoot you do yourself, take tons of photos, and not a lot of them are very useful for an actual painting, or at least in my experience, probably because I'm not experienced taking photos. But yeah. Yeah, this is driving me crazy though. I'm gonna have to clean my palette a little. I honestly didn't think it would dry, but gotta be better about putting it away when I'm done painting. Well, that came out of nowhere. Oh, that is way too much. Ah, Phthalo, Phthalo blue. Such a good color and so ridiculous at the same time. Hey, Cody. Good to see you. How you doing? I have such bad working habits. Like I'm putting my pinky on the painting right now. I mean, this area isn't wet, but it's just such bad habits to develop. Part of the reason is because I'm streaming. Like if I wasn't streaming, I could it'd be easier for me to get in close with what's it called? With the mall stick. Um, you know, but yeah. I'm doing all right. A little out of it today. Allergies, but I mean, that's a mild thing. It's not that bad. I'm one of those people who, when someone says, you ask someone how they're doing and they're like, "Oh, I can't complain." I'm just like, "Really? I can always complain. I don't know what you're talking about." I have to choose not to complain, which I mean, I try, but just saying. Haha, yeah, I like to say I could complain, but nobody cares. Yeah, I've heard that one before. I'm honestly making an effort to like in general focus on like the positive things. It's not that I don't mind complaining or that I don't have anything to complain about. Um, like I don't mind mentioning that like, oh, my allergies are killing me, so whatever, but it's not the focus. Like I'm doing all right. It's just a minor inconvenience. Whatever, I'll live. Not that nobody cares really, haha, but we could all complain. Absolutely. And I totally understand where you're coming from. I absolutely know where you're coming from and understand what you're saying. Let me just check something real quick. Oh yeah, it was you. All right, I thought it was you. You did the painting of that cat. That was really, uh, yeah, yeah. It turned out pretty good. I did think so too. Oh, damn! Especially for 2 hours. Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't have guessed a 2 hour painting. I would have guessed a lot more. Yeah, your cat's really cute, by the way. I don't know how you. Well, no, I take that back. I guess it depends on the pose. Although I'm assuming he didn't sit for you like that. I'm assuming you worked from a photo. Um, I always wonder how people, not wonder, I know how they did it, but it amazes me people who used to paint like cats or animals, back before photography. Waves too, honestly. I find it very impressive. I think it was Velasquez that did like a lot of waves and beach scenes that are just amazing. Could be getting the name wrong. Um, and yeah, just like Sargent too. Sargent did a really cool painting of a dancer, and it's just like, how? Thanks. I've been snapping pics of him with the intent of painting him for weeks now. Finally got one I liked enough. Nice. Yeah. I picked a good one. So I was looking at the Portrait Society, at their competition and previous year's winners and so on. Not all the winners, but a lot of the winners have their paintings are much larger than most of mine. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if that's gonna play a a like a determining factor at all. Uh, but it easily could. So I'm debating what painting I want to submit for the Portrait Society competition. They have a few categories. I think mine is going to be the like oh, what is the category? The out of the box, I think it is category. Oh, I mean, I'm definitely going to enter regardless, right? Because there's also like, there's more than just first place, right? So I'm going to enter. That's not even a question. It's really just like trying to pick what to enter, you know? And I think there's also a degree of like self preservation because no one wants, I can be a bit competitive. I don't want to lose. So there's a bit of like, oh, well, they go for different things. So when I lose, it's okay, you know, if I'm being honest. Right, but you might be able to make a more educated decision on what to enter. Absolutely, absolutely, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm actually trying to talk to some people to figure out what I should enter. What would be, um, you know, what of my current work would be like the best for them. Tailoring it to the like I don't think there's anything wrong with tailoring your entry to the competition. So to the individual competition. So yeah, that is what I'll be trying to do. They have a few categories, some of which I can't enter because I don't have the appropriate type of work for it. So, not a big deal. And some I know that I wouldn't win. Like they're they have a commission category, and I don't have any commissions because I haven't been taking commissions really. But also their commissions are very, for the most part, very what's the word I'm looking for? Like traditional, you know, um, looking, very straightforward. So I just realized that I might not be able to stream next week. We'll see. Might have to take a couple days off. That is way too bright. Yeah, that is way, way too bright. It's so hard. Our eyes, and this is something I've worked a lot on, and I've gotten a lot better at it, but our eyes tend to equate saturation and value. And those two are not the same thing. There's a bit of connectivity between them, or relation between them, but they're not the same. Although certain colors, um, the more saturated you want to go with them, the brighter or darker they get by by their nature kind of thing. But yeah, like you can't have a saturated yellow that's not bright. That's not high in the value scale. But you can have one that's high in the value scale that isn't saturated. Ah, Thalo, you suck sometimes. Jeez. That was way too much. I think I mentioned this before, but there's this fun video on YouTube of this guy who talks about the fact that there is no color brown and there's no brown lights because the color brown doesn't exist. Um, it's a fun video if you like things about like color and science and stuff like that. I found it interesting and did a good job. It was pretty entertaining too. There is a color theory book that has a similar sentiment and includes gray as well. They call brown a warm neutral and gray a cool neutral. Obviously, that's an oversimplification, but yeah. Yeah, well, no. So that is true, and that's an oversimplification, but I also think that might actually be wrong. Um, because um, brown is just like they show it in this I guess it could apply to gray as well because I guess gray can look like a blue under the right circumstances, but that's what they do with brown. Like they show you how like brown can be uh the same brown can go from brown to orange and back without actually changing colors, just by changing the color next to it and how light or dark the color next to it is. I guess that could also apply to gray, but I feel like it wouldn't apply as much to gray. Maybe I'm wrong. But either way, it's an oversimplification, you're right. There's this guy I discovered recently. I think I mentioned him before. He has all these color science and theory um, uh, stuff, like content. I really wanna reach out to him um, and see if I can collab with him about my palette. I just have to actually, do that. Like I have to actually write him and reach out, but maybe I'll get ChatGPT to write me a letter so I can send it to him. I mean, James Gurney, I think, uses the checkerboard where the gray square is both a white square and a shade and a black square in light. Yes, he does. That is similar. Um, that is a similar thing. The difference is that is applying that's an issue of value, right? Like the same gray can look like a highlight or a shadow or a neutral, whatever. Um, but the brown thing, it goes from looking not only like a brown color, but it goes from brown to orange, which it like changes color without actually changing color. So that's the like slight distinction, if that makes sense. It's not the biggest distinction in the world, but it was something that like when I saw it, when they show it to you, it is noticeable. Versus the square, which is more issue of like how dark or light it is. Yeah, that makes sense. If you happen across that vid again, I'd love to watch it. Absolutely. I can find it. I'll send it to you or I'll put it in Discord and tag you on it. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think you will personally learn anything new from it, but it is still fun to watch. I think I think some things you can watch and don't have to always learn something mind blowing to enjoy it. I think instead of need, you meant to say geek or something. Nerd. That's it, nerd. I just nerd out on that type of content, whether I'm learning something or just seeing something portrayed in a cool way. I agree. I'm the same way. Yeah, I like to see that stuff, like you said, even if it's just a new way of presenting it. Also, you know, there's I'm not saying that this happened with this video in particular, but there's this thing that does happen sometimes where like I'll know something and someone will, I'll watch something or someone will explain it in a different way. And even though it's something I already know, it's like I'll gain a better understanding or a deeper understanding of said thing. So you never know when like one word is going to like trigger a better understanding of something, you know. That is something though that I do find a little challenging. Um, I used to go to comic conventions and stuff like that, and I'd go to all these different talks and so on. And after a while, man, it just got so repetitive because they're all like entry level things. So after a while, I would almost never go, even though like occasionally you definitely learn something new. But once you do it for long enough, it starts, you know, it starts being difficult to go. So it kind of just depends. That is one of those things that's just challenging in general, like conventions and workshops, So often it's just a repetitive aspect of things. Man, I'll say this: the I've talked about Phthalo Blue and Cody. I'm bringing it up for you specifically because we've talked about Phthalo Blue, but quinacridone rose is a pretty strong color, and I feel like quinacridone rose will give phthalo blue a run for its money. Um, Mars black will also give phthalo a run for its money as far as like being an overpowering color. It's not as like, how can I put this? it's not as like strong in the sense of like just a little goes a long way, but once you get a bit in, it takes a lot to get through it, if that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I haven't used much of Mars Black, so that's interesting to hear. Yeah, I'm trying to remember why I bought Mars Black to try. Oh, I know. I remember. Right, right. So, one of the issues with oil paint is a lot of the dark colors are transparent. Um, and a lot of the lighter colors are very opaque. Not all, but titanium white is very opaque, and a lot of the darker colors are either semi or I guess fully transparent. Um, so when if you ever go to cover something up and it's in the dark area, it can be a pain. You either need to do multiple layers or ironically, you need to cover it with white, let it dry, and then go back in and, hit it with some black or dark colors. Uh, but um, Mars black is supposedly very opaque, and it is. And that's why I got it. It's not the darkest black you can get. Um, I don't remember which black is the darkest black, but it's not Mars black. Um, but I would have to be doing like a black on black painting for it to not be enough, I think. Like it would have to be a really, really dark painting for it to not be, like black enough. Also, I think black is so interesting because you have like a lot of times what's it called? Shiny blacks, like blacks that have some shine to them. Or, well, let me rephrase that. In oil painting, a lot of times your blacks or your darks sink, and so they look more matte. And because they're more matte, they actually look lighter. And so when you oil out or put varnish on them, they look shiny again and deeper. But the reason I think that's so funny is because all of the paints that are like the blackest black, all of those are matte because by being matte, they absorb more light. So I think it's pretty funny how contradictory that is. I'm sure there's a science behind it that actually makes it make sense. So it's not actually contradicting itself, but it's just interesting. It's also annoying that they don't make any of those blacks in oil paint. A lot of the quote unquote fun colors they don't make in oil paints. Like a lot of the like neon colors and stuff like that, it's hard to find in oil paint. I found some, but they're not the best. Also, on a completely side note, I really want to try that new blue. It's not really new anymore, but you know, I guess it's the newest blue. Yeah, I want to try that. I can't afford it, but I want to try it. I probably won't even like it if I'm being honest. Because I think it's more like an ultramarine blue kind of thing, or closer to it. And I don't, yeah, that's not my go to blue. I'm not saying that ultramarine isn't a good color, it's a beautiful color. It's just I don't find it very useful most of the time. So a blue that's similar and going to be useful. What's the new blue? It's not new anymore. Like I said, a couple years. I mean, like five, I think. Yinmin blue, I think it's called. Um, yeah, it looks kind of like ultramarine though, is the issue. But it's one of the only like new uh, blues and new that has been found or just created or discovered since like I think Phthalo or something like that. Like it's been a while. Blue is such an interesting color. There's a lot of blue things in the world that aren't blue. They just appear blue to our eyes, but they're not actually blue. Like, if you were to take them and grind them up, you could never make a blue paint out of them because they're not actually blue. They just appear blue. You use a lot of ultramarine. I wonder if it would be too similar to be useful. I don't know. I really don't. It'll be, I'll put it, I will say this, it's going to be overpriced and expensive. Uh, that's why I don't use it. I've never tried it. Um, Ultramarine is a great color and it's cheap too, which is, fantastic. I just don't find a lot of use for ultramarine in my like quote unquote day-to-day painting, like when I in my like normal palette. But it's a great color and I've used it for years and years, so you know, I can't, I'm not saying any can't say anything negative about it. I just don't use it. What is it? There's a few other blues I haven't tried that I want to. Trying to remember the name of it. It's not indigo blue, but there's Prussian blue, I think it is. Have you ever used Prussian blue? Just curious. I haven't. I've heard mixed things about Prussian blue. I looked at it and I tried to figure it out, like to see if I think it would be useful. I'm just not sure if Prussian blue would be. It's very dark, which I like. I like that, but I wonder if it's as saturated as like phthalo or even ultramarine, or is it just, you know, darker? You like, yeah, I like it for nocturnum paintings. Sometimes it's my favorite though. I'd rather just mix. Oh, sometimes it's not my favorite though. You mean Prussian blue? Yes, Prussian. So here's the thing. If you can mix it, right, I'm less interested in it. Like that's kind of how my brain works. If I can mix the color, then it's a pointless color to me. And it's not really like obviously there are convenience colors out there and there's also there's also nuances of things how pigments function and so on. But yeah, in my brain I'm just like if I can mix it, I don't need it. So, the example I have of that is actually magenta, right? Magenta is a great color. I love it. But I can mix um, quinacridone magenta. I can actually mix it with my quinacridone rose. And so to me, rose is a superior color. I don't know if you could mix it exactly. You might be able to. I haven't tried. I'm just saying I'd rather mix a dark blue in general. But that's probably more of a lean towards opaque colors on my part. I also go for opaque colors too. I don't really use transparency in my painting. Um, I think transparency definitely has a place in painting, and I think it can be absolutely gorgeous. Um, but the reason I don't really worry about transparency is because my process is so like I don't want to call it meandering because that I feel like gives it a negative connotation, but there's a lot of back and forth. I'm not worried about hitting every mark first time around. And when you work with transparency, there's a bit of that you have to, because if you don't, um, there's there's no going back on some of that stuff. Once you do, the transparency is gone. Hi, Misu. Hi, little girl. Oh, little girl wants some pets, huh? Cat coming up in a second. Aw, she needs some pets before I can pick her up because she's a little hyper and she doesn't like being picked up. Isn't that right, little girl? Yeah. Oh, little girl. Yeah. Little girl. Just hang out for a second. It's okay. 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 I don't know if you could hear her, but she was not happy with me. I don't know if my noise gate, let it through, but not happy with me. That's like Weasley. You just want to love him, but he won't let me pick him up all the time. Oh, yeah, you heard it. Yeah. So, yeah, she won't let me pick her up, and she'll be all weird about like coming and sitting on my lap. But every night when I go to bed, she lays on top of me in the weirdest ways. So, she's a weirdo. But yeah, it's cats. I feel like cats are dumb about like getting attention and love. Like they want it, but they're dumb about it. They're also that way with playing. Like I'll see them and they'll be like sitting next to each other and they clearly want to play with each other. We have three cats, so they want, they'll sit and they'll be wanting to play with each other, but they'll just sit there staring at each other instead of playing. Like I said, I think they're just dumb. Like I love them. Don't get me wrong, I do. I love them, but I don't think they're very. I think they're just dumb. Oh, that smells awful. Do you have just the one cat, or do you have more? You gotta call it a night? No worries. It is late for a lot of people, I know. Just the one cat. That's cool. Yeah, have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Two dogs. Oh, that's a lot of dogs. Well, thanks for hanging out, Cody. I appreciate it. Have a good night. So I messed up this a little bit, just a teensy bit. So I'm restructuring it now. Like I said, teeny bit, not major. So I have this thing that's kind of silly, but I really enjoy very contradictory things in painting. And they're not really contradictory, it's just a little challenging to make them all work together. Um, but I love like really subtle, like very delicate transitions and like lost edges and stuff like that. I really enjoy that stuff. At the same time, I also paint with a lot of like very hard edges, and I enjoy optical mixing as well. Like I said, it's not actually contradictory, it's just they're not inherent to one another. That doesn't mean that they're not in, you can't use them in the same painting or anything. There's a painting I did. Trying to, doesn't matter which painting it is right now, but there was a painting I did a while ago, and there was like this one little bit in the painting that I was like, oh, I'm gonna spend time on this and like quote unquote show off. Sometimes you just like you want to show your skill or you want to show your ability. Basically, you want to show off. It's not very, I think, self-explanatory. And I did. I did the thing and I was really happy with it. And like no one's noticed it ever. And that's okay. I kind of knew that going in, that most likely no one would ever really see it or know what it is that I was so like happy with or proud of. But I was. So it fulfilled it for me regardless. And one day someone, some random person will see it and fall in love with that little whatever it is, just a very small part of a painting and be like, I love how he did that. Or it'll end up in the garbage, one way or the other. And this isn't me being uh, self deprecating, it's just, statistics. Like some paintings are going to end up one way or another uh, in the garbage or in a yard sale or something. Huh. I'm spending a lot of time on this arm. That, unfortunately, I feel like that's how it goes towards the end of a painting. Like, the amount of time I spend on the final part of the painting compared to like the rest is just crazy. Although that might not be true because, like, if I take in consideration all the time it took me to set up the photo shoot for this, to edit the photos in Photoshop, and so on, uh, that might actually be more time and probably better spent because if you start off with bad, um, you know, with a bad reference or image or plan, yeah, it usually does not yield a good painting. That is definitely something I've learned in the last couple years. The pre-planning and the setup is so important. Like to the point, like setup is so important that if you had two painters, one slightly better than the other, but one was better at and better is obviously a very, you know, vague term and when it comes to art, but still, and you gave one a more time and was better at setting up, they'd they'd come out with more successful paintings than the other one. At least in the way that I paint and the way of like people I know paint. This might not apply to, certain people who paint like abstract or something. I don't know. If there's anyone new joining today, you are welcome to hop in the chat and ask questions if you have any, or talk about art or whatever. More than welcome. Hey, Pickles. Do you mind if I shorten it to Pickles instead of Pickles Pico de Gallo? De Gallo? Is it de Gallo or de Gallo? Great lighting, very powerful lighting. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's one of the huge advantages of taking your own photos and doing a photo shoot. You get to do your own lighting. Um, just happened to see this was live again. Yeah, yeah, Pickles. Geico, like the salsa. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. But yeah, Pickles is quicker. But yeah. Oh, I'm glad you stopped by. Thank you. Um, yeah, I'm not like I'm not very experienced doing photo shoots, but my friends modeled for me for this one, and we did it here in my at my place. And I bought a light. You can actually see. Wait, can you see the light back here? Just yeah, I bought like a light box type of thing to help. It was great. Very very helpful. It's hard to find good reference online unless you want to steal it. There's a ton of great reference online if you want to steal it from people. But reference that is not, that you're not stealing, you either have to ask a lot of people or, um, yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. Looked like you are maybe using a soft brush too. Um, this one isn't that soft. It's I'd call it like a medium stiff brush. Everything I use is synthetic. I don't use oh, what's it called? I don't use like bristle brushes. So this isn't as this isn't as stiff as a bristle brush. Um, but it's not very soft. Um, but yeah, it's not very stiff either. That's why I say like a medium. It's the Princeton Dakota series. You can find it online. If you're interested. Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't compare to like hog bristle brushes. But I refuse to use those. I refuse to use any natural hair brush. So yeah. But honestly, I don't like brushes that are too stiff because they have a tendency of like what's it called? Taking paint off. As much as they put paint down, they take it off. So so yeah, I don't know. I don't usually like very stiff brushes or too stiff, whatever too stiff is. If I need a stiffer brush to put down like heavy paint, I can always use a you know, I what's it called? Um a silicone brush or a palette knife, you know. It doesn't have to be bristles. In fact, a lot of times I don't like the look of bristles, the bristle streaks through like very very thick paint. I find it distracting. Princeton Dakota, I'll check it out. Curious why on the natural brushes. Uh, you like the Princeton Catalyst and uh, Win I think that's Windsor Oil Hog. Oh, I went vegan in 2018 and so I avoid animal products. And honestly, I don't know that it's even needed anymore. Like the synthetics are so good at this point that I don't know that it's really necessary. So, also, I will say this too. I tend to like brushes that are very tidy, like the all the bristles are kind of together. Um, and a lot of bristle brushes tend to like they tend to have hairs that go kind of everywhere. I'm sure There are expensive quality brushes that don't have that, but that is a tendency from what I've seen. Oh, vegan, that is an impressive structure right on the brush's streaks. I struggle with bristles straying like that. I have used travel cleaner and it helps. Splaying. Hi, Joanne. Yeah, I hate the splaying bristles, and I hate splaying brushes in general. Um, but I find that what's it called? Synthetics tend to be more like I said, they tend to be um, more like put together. Like they're um, I mean, they get damaged, don't get me wrong, especially the cheap ones. They get damaged really easily, but the bristles tend to be very, like, they stick together. Maybe because they're not as stiff. I don't know. They stick together until they don't, and then you have to replace the brush. I'm doing all right, John. How are you? And yeah, pickles going vegan was quite a surprise for everybody because I used to eat like a plate of bacon used to be a meal for me, so it was uh it was kind of a surprise to everyone, me included. But it's really cool because my mom went vegan in solidarity with me, and she had a lot of really positive what's it called uh health results from it. So you know that was really worth it. That alone was pretty worth it. Do you have an affiliate link to buy the Dakotas? A plate of bacon. He got to ask what made you change. Okay. Um, I do not have an affiliate link, and yeah, so you know, yeah, just buy them wherever you can find them. Jerry's Artorama has them, and so does uh, Blix, but I don't know where you're located, so you might not have those. Either way, you know, enjoy. I know no affiliate link, just to have fun, give them a shot. Um, what made me change? I started reading up on it and the supposed health benefits of it all, and I'd felt, and I at the time I was trying to eat healthier and stuff in general, and I felt like I'd been lied to my whole life. So not that I didn't know that like eating vegetables is healthy, and not that you can't eat unhealthy as a vegan. You absolutely can. But all those caveats aside, I felt like I'd been lied to, and I was like, I can't keep eating this stuff anymore. That was how it started. It's evolved a bit since then. So, but yeah, that's where it started. Joanne says I don't know how to answer that. I'm distressed and breathing uh, by just relaxing and taking in your art. Thank you. Sound better than a week ago. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Last week was really rough, for sure. As things are still rough, but I'm doing better. Um, yeah. I'm sorry. Sorry you're distressed. That sucks. Um, you know, I don't know what else to say about that. That obviously it sucks being stressed out or anything in life is, uh, obviously a part of life, but obviously also not the fun parts of life. So I will say this. I don't know if this helps, and this might not be something that applies to you. So don't take it as like, um, no worries, part of the job. Yeah. Something that I try to remind myself in moments where I'm stressed out about things is I always try and be like, okay, 5 years from now, how much is this going to bother me? Right? Because most things that happened 5 years ago, really not a big deal to me anymore. Very few things that happened 5 years ago matter to me in the slightest today. Um, I try and keep that in mind. Obviously, it doesn't apply to everything, but I try and keep that in mind for my own sanity, uh, because I find personally I find it helps me keep a perspective on things. I'm not stressing. I'm de-stressing. Oh, I thought distressed as in. I read it distressed as in like not that you were de-stressing, but distressed. Like what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, I guess like stressed out or uh, you know, um, worn out. I don't know what I don't know what the other synonyms are. All I can think of is like the genes right now. That's the only thing that's coming to mind. Um, but yeah, de-stressing is great. I have a cat. She will get very angry with me, but I will still do it and pick her up if I can. Cat coming in. Yeah, angry little girl. I know you don't like to be picked up. I know. But people can't see you if I don't pick you up. How will they ever see you? Look at your pretty face. I know, I know. Hiss, hiss. Oh, she's so angry. She's so angry. Yeah, she's very pretty. She has interesting colors. But she's very vocal, so as soon as you do anything she doesn't like, she hisses and like groans at you and everything. But she's all bark. She doesn't do anything. And she doesn't even mean it half the time. I've I've had her on me, purring, and hissing at the same time, or groaning, whatever. Like, so you know, she's silly, I'll put it that way. Well, she is a calico, and all calicos are female, so um, as far as I know, at least. You have a calico named Splat. That's cute. It's an appropriate name. It's not a good jumper. Your cat isn't a good jumper. You said, wait, what am I missing here? Well, I saw that in my mind's eye. Its name is Splat because it missed its land. Oh, it's got it. I thought Splat because of the colors. Got it. I get it now. That's funny. That's pretty funny. Yeah, Dresden he's actually a really good jumper. But he's also really stupid. So sometimes he completely misjudges the jump or something, and he's very uncoordinated. So it's pretty funny sometimes. I, I'll see one day if I can find some video to share because I try to record video. Uh, he's pretty silly. But that's very cute. I like that. Splat. Uh, Dresden, like Dresden pattern on a quill? No, I wish I could say yes, but no. Dresden, like Harry Dresden from the series, the Dresden Files, the book series. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a urban fantasy book series. Oh no, no, you're bad. Not you're bad at all. Not at all. A lot of people think it has to do with I guess it's there's a place in Germany named Dresden, probably where he originally got the name for the character. although I could be wrong. Um, so people ask me if like why Germany or why what's the connection? So not at all. I don't know if you are familiar with the Dresden Files, and obviously, you know, like understandable if not. There's endless amounts of content out there. But in the Dresden Files, Harry Dresden is the main character, and he is a wizard. And after we got after we got Dresden, we ended up adopting a dog named Wizard. We didn't name him Wizard. That was his name when we adopted him. Wizard, that's a great name. Yeah, oh, that's a great name. I agree. He's he's a sweet, very sweet dog. He loves Michelle very, very much. He's also older, so we didn't want to change his name anyways because he's very familiar with his name at this point. I really wish I could play my music and have everyone listening in while I paint. Having said that, I suspect a lot of people would not like my music, so that would probably be a disadvantage in a lot of ways. But uh, some of it is just, it is so fun to listen to, and I would like to share that. Anyone here a fan of progressive rock, like Tool, stuff like that? That would be a good idea for people doing this. Maybe a speaker with great sound. Yeah, the problem is you can't play. I can't play music because of copyright. That's the issue. On Twitch, you can kind of get away with it, even though you're not supposed to. You can, their moderation isn't as like they're not on as on top of it as YouTube is. But yeah, it's a copyright issue thing. Personally, I think it's a kind of dumb thing about copyright, but you know, whatever. The music industry is what they are. Yeah, I have little earbuds in when I stream. And then I have a decent, like, not the best speakers in the world, but you know, decent speakers for uh you know, my computer. Um so when I'm not streaming, I play them through the speakers. But yeah, if my mic picks up any of the music, they'll mute me. Um, uh, or they don't mute me live, but it can cause problems. Let's see. Joanne says, I saved the neighbor's cat. Her son was going to leave him. Uh, think okay. Yeah. The cat was a buff tiger Maine Coon. Oh my God, that's so cute. The woman named him Puff. Um, I called him Admiral Puff. At times he acted like a dog. That's so funny. Uh, Pickle says, didn't realize that. Maybe someone can just change sound by 30% to electronica. Would be different, but maybe no. Yeah, you can't. They have automated systems that are pretty good at picking that stuff up at this point. Like literally, um, if I wear like over the ear headphones and my mic picks it up from my headphones, um, they will like they can flag it. I've literally had that happen to me in the past. So they're really you know I don't know if I don't think strict is the right word, but yeah. Um, like I said, the other Twitch is ironically they're better at it because they're worse at it, but they'll still mute your VOD after the fact. So whatever. Sing along. That's true. They probably wouldn't monetize that because of how bad I sing. I am not a good singer.
Good night.
Oh, good night. But yeah, I'm not going to be singing along to anything. I am not. How should I put phrases? I am very confident in my lack of ability to sing. So I will not be doing that. But if you like Tool, by the way, check out I don't know if you're familiar with them. Check out Sleep Token. You might like them. I've really been getting into Sleep Token lately. No problem. I can carry a tune. in a bag and that's about it. Yeah. Yeah, no. I would like to be able to sing. I know it's something I could theoretically develop, but it's one of those things that it's like, oh, I would like to do that, but I am not going to put in any of the required effort to accomplish that. The same way I would love to be able to like play guitar or drums, but you know, those things require a lot of time and effort. Yeah. Do you ever paint alla prima? Uh, so yes, and no. Yes, yes, I do. So I would paint almost everything alla prima. The only reason I don't paint it alla prima is because um, I'm often just not fast enough, or um, I don't have the time to do it. Yeah, but basically, I'm not layering. Um, like I'm not glazing or anything. I treat it very much as if it's always alla prima. Um, like I said, I can't always do it in a single session, and it's kind of misleading because even some people who are all considered alla prima didn't actually do all their paintings in one session. But yeah, um, but yeah, sometimes I've done some paintings quickly and you know so they're more like single session paintings. Yeah. But yeah, if I could keep my paint wet for uh forever, um I would paint wet into wet almost all the time. Yes, yeah, I've read that continuously about alla prima artists. Yeah, so one of the most famous alla prima artists out there is John Singer Sargent, right? Often considered one of the best like alla prima artists. But it's kind of misleading because a lot of his paintings were painted in multiple sessions, which, um, that's like not the definition of alla prima. But I think I think the thing is really I think the bigger distinction is the difference between uh, direct painters and painters um, that layer or that use um, what's it called, translucent layers and glaze and all of that. I don't do most of those things. I just paint directly. um, I'm not I'm not relying on generally I'm not relying on scumbling or glazing or any of that. Not saying that I'm opposed to those things on principle. I just don't enjoy doing them 99% of the time. I would rather paint wet into wet, um, always. I just can't always paint fast enough. especially on bigger paintings. Like these ones are small, but I'm doing this while streaming and after work, so I'm kind of slow compared to what I can do sometimes. But bigger paintings, it's almost impossible to do giant paintings in a single sitting, you know. It just doesn't make sense. But you can still do them as direct paintings, and that I do. I don't know if that's helpful or not, or makes sense, or if I'm telling you things you already knew and contributing nothing. You know, either way, it's all good. Like a lot of the impressionists who are also direct painters, you know, they also didn't do it alla prima. They often went back to the same location repeatedly. So yeah, I don't know. I think alla prima is kind of a, you know, I don't know that it's a very useful term always. And for anyone who wants to know how you do direct painting when your paint after your painting has dried, um, you treat it kind of like it's wet anyways. And I personally oil out, which means putting a layer of oil over it, very thin layer, so you don't get like the dry brush effects, and it looks more like it's all one layer. Uh, Pickle says it does. Thank you. I struggle between layers when painting direct. So in wet oil is the guideline for is there a guideline for day between? I end up using what I think UB alla prima. Sorry if I misread that. I am dyslexic, so yeah. So yeah, I just oil out in between layers. I personally prefer I oh, what is it called? Um Not Gamsol, not Gamsol. Oleo gel. That's it. I personally prefer oleo gel to oil out, but um you can use other things like regular linseed oil or walnut oil, or another good alternative is Gamblin's solvent-free uh, gel. And what oiling out means is I just put a very thin layer of oil on the dry painting. The only thing is you have to make sure the painting's actually dry, because if it's not actually dry, then you'll end up like lifting things that are wet. So you have to make sure it's dry. Um, so I just take I take a brush and I just like paint on a very thin layer. You don't want it to be a thick layer. And then yeah, that makes it flow. That makes everything flow better. And it makes it so that you don't usually get those like dry brush effects by accident. And so everything tends to look more like, you know, wet into wet. It's not perfect because obviously you're not actually painting wet into wet, but it's better. And then you just paint, you know, directly on top. Yeah, like I said, I like oleo gel, but it's not a requirement. I've used walnut oil before and linseed oil and so on. Mark Carter doesn't layer. His art is conventional. Uh, yeah, he probably does layer eventually, depending on what he's working on. Um, his paints are designed what's it does Mark Carter does layer. Okay. Yeah. I can't imagine doing every painting wet into wet from start to finish, especially when you start getting into very large paintings, because I know he does like portraits and stuff, so I'm just like, how could you possibly pull that off? So you can paint on top of oiling out. Yes, you can. Just make sure not to overdo it with the oiling out. It's a very thin layer. Um, it's just to like, it's basically just to make it feel like you're painting wet into wet and not dry brushing and scumbling over what you've already painted. Not that there's anything wrong with scumbling. Scumbling is actually a really good technique for certain things. It's just not one I want to use, but it's very useful, and I'm not opposed to using it in right circumstances, you know. But yeah, I don't know how you would do a painting. I mean, Mark Carter does he does have his paints formulated to stay wet longer than most other paints, but still, I was like, I can't imagine. Like, sure, on a, what's it called? On a study he does, or you know, something, or a still life or something, I could see it. But like, he does these big portraits and stuff, and I'm just like, I was surprised. I wouldn't expect him to be able to pull that off every time, all the time, you know, in one session, or always wet into wet, I should say. Yeah, if you Pickles, if you go to my video, um, I think yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, if you go to my live stream from yesterday, I in the very beginning of the session, I um I oil out my painting uh with oleo gel. Yeah. Joanne says I haven't tried his paints. A lot of others, just not his. Yeah, I'm not um I haven't tried his paints. His palette isn't what's it called? Isn't paints colors that I want, so I've never tried his stuff. The other issue with his paints, um, the other reason I haven't tried his paints is because his paints, while they dry slow, which is, you know, good if that's what you want, um, and I would want that. They're very soft and they're self-leveling. Like they're softer than I think any paint I've ever used. Because like I use what is it called? Engram, and Engram's pretty soft, but it's not self-leveling soft. So that's just too soft for me. Um, personally. Not to say that there's anything bad with that. I sometimes, you know, water down my paints enough to self level. Obviously, I don't mean real water, but you know what I'm saying. Like I make them fluid enough to do that. But I would like to have the control over that more than just all the time. You'll watch yesterday's live video for that. Thank you. Is Gamsol a good alternative to walnut oil? No. Um, Gamsol is not an alternative to oil. Gamsol is a solvent, so it's an alternative to like what's it called? Um, you know, turpentine. And it is a safer alternative to like turpentine, terpenoid, and mineral spirits. It's still not safe. You still have to worry about ventilation, but it is safer. Having said that, it is weaker, so it can't dissolve Damar varnish and some other a few other things. If you use those things, it won't be able to do that. But otherwise, it is very it is safer because it evaporates a lot slower. M-gram paints are fantastic. Yeah, I really like them. I really do like them. Not all my paints are M-gram at the moment, but I do really enjoy M-gram paints. I don't use Gamsol in my painting in like my in my paintings basically. I don't use any solvents in my painting. I I do use Gamsol what's it called? To clean my brush at the a little bit here at the end of a painting session, not during, just at the very, very end. And if I were to paint in a different environment where I didn't have to worry about ventilation, like if I was outdoors or something, I probably I wouldn't be opposed to using Gamsol. I just being indoors, having cats around, stuff like that, I'm extra careful. So I don't want to take the chance. So I try to reduce all the like solvents and things that would require ventilation and so on. So none of my mediums, none of my stuff has any solvent in it basically. When I use water mixable oils, I often use Gamsol. I thought it was good to varnish with safely. Are you thinking of Gamvar? Because Gamvar is a varnish and it has Gamsol in it. But Gamsol isn't a varnish at all. It won't. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah. Gamvar is a retouch varnish. I don't know how it compares to other varnishes as far as like fumes go. Does have Gamsol in it. I don't know if you can use it in your like mid painting. That I don't know. Uh, yeah, I use Gamvar as well to varnish. Uh, Also, just for anyone who's using Gamvar to varnish, just be aware that it is not a UV varnish. So it doesn't protect against UV light in any way. Which, unfortunately means that it's like not the best varnish out there because there are UV varnishes. However, UV varnishes often require you to wait 6 months to a year until you can put them on, and they require very strong solvents to put them on or take them off. Gamvar is a retouch varnish, so read the label, but my understanding is you can put it on as soon as it is dry to the touch. Like I said, read the label. I'm not claiming to be an expert on this one. Oh wow. I've been going for almost 2.5 hours. All right. So man, that makes sense why I'm feeling so tired. I got about another 10 to 15 minutes and then I'm calling it a night. I wish I'd gotten more done, but like I said earlier, it's really hard to get a lot done when you're tired. So I know I'm not as efficient as I can be sometimes. Just have to something I just have to live with, I guess. I have a painting from 1875. I didn't realize you were so old, Joanne. That's impressive. Anyways, that's really cool. Have you done anything to that painting? Have you like tried to restore it or revarnish it or anything like that? Just curious. Not that you have to. I'm just curious. Considering the weathering scaling from being over over working fireplace and in storage, it's worth UV varnish. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yes, so UV varnish is totally worth it. I agree. Um, I agree. I think UV varnish is worth it. I'm just warning that you have to wait a long time until you can varnish it. So, um, I think doing a layer of retouch varnish and then in a year or two doing what's it called? Doing UV varnish on top of it is a good way of approaching it. It's from the Hudson Valley School of Art. That's so cool. Um, yeah, that's what I was trying to. That's I guess what I was saying. Also, because you might need stronger solvents, you have to test it on. Like I would want to test it first and make sure that it's not going to ruin the painting. Um, obviously, I know it's meant for paintings, but some people like if you use Damar varnish, for instance, in your paint, um, your your paint might be harder to dissolve than if you don't, and some of those varnishes might be geared towards paintings that have a you know I don't want to say a stronger bond, but maybe that are harder that will withstand solvents better. I'll put it that way. So I would look into that. Gamvar is a very mild varnish. It's breathable, that's why you can put it on while it's still curing, as long as it's touch dry. Yeah. You will not touch it. I've found two places that have good reputations with this style and have worked with museums. Oh, that's so cool. So I don't know if you're familiar. There's this guy on YouTube who does restorations, and I've enjoyed watching his videos about restorations. But my understanding is there's some controversy around him regarding like his restoration habits or practices. Um, there are some people who claim that his techniques are not good and not museum level or whatever, and they're damaging and other thing. I don't know. So I don't know. It's I don't know enough about it. It's very interesting. I do like watching his videos, kind of regardless. But yeah, I don't know if his techniques are solid or not. What's the name of the show? It's a channel on YouTube. Trying to remember the name, but I'm failing at that. If you look up like painting restorations on YouTube, I'm sure you'll find it. It's this guy. He has a studio or yeah, a store slash studio in I think it's in New York, but I could be wrong. Um, could be wrong about the location. His channel, it's very like it has a bit of ASMR vibe to it because he's kind of calm and he talks about his technique and like what he's doing. Um, yeah, trying to remember the name, but I cannot remember the name right now. Hmm. If Joanne says one place in Mass and the other in Maine, that's so cool. I think restoration's so cool. Not just restoration. There's a, it's restoration and something else. I can't remember what it's called. Um, conservation. That's it. Yeah. I think the science of it's also really fascinating. I just wish there was better what's it called? Um I wish there was better resources on that because I feel like the resources that are out there are very hard to understand if you're not in the field kind of thing. Yeah. I feel like they need to simplify some of the stuff for painters who are curious but not experts already. Let me see if I can find the channel. I'll put it in the, since everyone in the chat is interested in it. I'll let me see if I can find it real quick. Also, I'm tired and I'm hitting my my limit for today. Um, Thank you. I I appreciate that. I think it's coming along well. It's, um, I hate to say it. It's coming along a lot slower than I want it to. But that is what it is, kind of thing. All right, let me see real quick if I can find that channel. Um, YouTube. Um, oh, that's so funny. I go to YouTube and I see my stream uh is live. That's funny. I mean, that's good. I just have never done that before. Here we go. Found the channel. All right. I'll put it in the chat. So that's the channel that does restorations. It's very enjoyable to watch. I cannot speak to the quality of his restorations. I have no knowledge of that, but it's fun to watch. So yeah. Anyways, I am going to call it a night. Thank you everyone for hanging out with me. Pickles, Joanne, Cody, everyone who was in chat. I appreciate it. It's always fun to talk about art and everything. I will be streaming on Wednesday night as well. And then I will also be streaming Sunday day. So that's the schedule for now until I decide to change it. Take care. Yes, Joanne, take care. You too. Thank you everybody for that, and have a great Monday night and a great week.